Yeah, I just spent half my morning trying to figure out who we're playing next and what time we can test at Purdue and when we can shoot. And God, a lot of things changed in this COVID season, guys, gals. But the best thing is, we had a good practice yesterday. We had to give them Wednesday off because of the days off, and we did have a good practice yesterday. I'm hoping to have a good one today. I think our guys realize that every opportunity right now is against a quality team, which is a good thing. But it's against real good teams when you look at who we have left on our schedule. And no one more than Iowa, who's went on a little rough stretch for a while there too, but is arguably one of the best teams in this league. So we're excited to play. We're fairly healthy. I just tried to call Matt Painter because I'm trying to figure out how it was for Sasha. He struggled, and I don't think he scored a point at Minnesota last night. And to try to gauge how he feels compared. Now he hasn't been back as long as Josh and especially Gabe, but just trying to gather information to see how everybody else is doing and fighting through this. So. Other than that, we're ready to go.
We'll take questions for Coach in the chat, beginning with Kyle Austin.
Tom, looking at some of your shooting numbers the last Iowa game notwithstanding, what do you kind of attribute that to? Was that guys not taking the shots you wanted? Guys coming off COVID?
You know what? I really have looked at that hard, and we went through all the shots in the last 4 or 5 games, and I tell you, like in Josh's case, a lot of good shots he just missed. But when you go 5 for 18 or 5 for 19, I think in one game, 2 or 3 of those shots I wouldn't have taken, but most of them I would have. Joey hasn't taken as many, but hasn't shot as well. Gabe hasn't got any shots. He's our best shooter. And, and Rockets struggled a little bit still. But I'd say for the most part, it's just been a lack of that practice time and trying to bounce back. And we haven't shot it well since then. And as I said, some of it's been Josh, but I don't really complain about the shots. It's just that he gets the most shots. So, I don't know, at one time, I think in those 2 games after he came back, he was, 10 for 38 or something. And that's going to be hard to overcome. So he needs to keep shooting it because they're good shots for the most part.
Next up, Matt Charbonneau.
Tom, obviously a different defensive opponent this time. Penn State really gets after you. Iowa not so much. Is this kind of a game where you feel like maybe some of those guys that aren't making shots consistently, this is a chance to kind of see some of those shots? I know they went down the last time you played them, but that'd be something that gets somebody going in a game like this.
Matt, some went down, and early they went down a lot, but, later in that game, we had some great looks, and we just missed them then, too. I think, again, wearing down at the end. We didn't have Gabe in that game, and, looking at trying to judge where Josh is and how long it took him to get back. We're trying to work through Gabe, but, the biggest thing when you come off that is shooters, as I saw last night with Purdue. Shooters are the ones that, don't get their legs back from COVID because you're, even if you don't have any symptoms, the one symptom everybody seems to have is a weakness. It takes a while to get back. And so I don't know. I don't know if it's that. I really don't. I know we've shot pretty well in practice. But there's a lot difference in shooting well in practice and then getting in game when you're going up and down as much. But I do feel comfortable. I do feel like shots are going to go in, and I just want to, if we shoot the ball well, as good as we've been playing defensively, that would help our defense too. The other area, is a big concern in this game is the fouls. We have been fouling a little bit, but nothing like the Iowa game, where 35 to 15 difference is hard to overcome, and yet we had a shot to tie with 20 seconds left. But we'll see. I mean, we've got to do, I think, those 2 things better. We got to defend without fouling, and we got to keep getting good shots. I don't think we're getting as many shots off the break. I think that's hurt us a little bit for a variety of reasons. When we did come back, and we went a lot of days without going up and down because we only had 8 guys to practice, and that hurt us some too, to be honest.
Are you still planning on sticking with Malik to start, or is that something you're gonna, kind of play with as you go here?
I'm not playing with as much as you guys think. I mean, I can see where you'd be frustrated, or people would be. I mean, I did that for a reason. Now, I will tell you this. I'll say publicly the day before, but for the most part, I'm not going to answer those kind of questions because I'm not going to give everything away. I don't lie to you, but I am going to start Malik tomorrow if that, but probably for now on, I'll just say, we'll see tomorrow. But I don't really think it matters either because they played almost the same amount of minutes they would have played. I said that beforehand. I did get, maybe Joey should be the coach because, his suggestion, and we had 21 points and 7 or 8 rebounds out of that position. And I thought both guys played pretty well. But, there's no secret. Malik is doing a good job. He brings something a little different. We do need Joey shooting. I've stated that from day one. And I guess we'll continue to state that, knowing that in my mind that's going to come back around. And when we start shooting the ball better, if we can keep defending like we are, that's when we could take some serious steps forward.
Up next, Chris Laurie.
Was wondering, it's been usually around this time of the year you get your rotation figured out, you get the minutes figured out, but more importantly, you get the combinations figured out. How difficult has it been trying to maybe mix and match these guys based on the limited practice time and the lack of a normal preseason?
Well, Chris, that is a good question, and I'm sure one that frustrates the airwaves, and I say that only because it frustrates me in my office. You just hit on a couple of really good points, though. In the preseason is when you usually tinker with things. You get the 2 exhibition games, you get the 4 or 5 other games that you feel you can tinker with your lineup and still win. And you also get get that summer, and we didn't get to do that. So what is frustrating to some, I mean, we did lose some key people. I was even talking to Kyle Arns last night, and he was a pretty good 7th, 8th man. We just didn't appreciate him as much as maybe we should have. But I still say the COVID part of it and having guys out and not practicing together, I think it leads to more turnovers. I think it leads to different combination. It's been as frustrating for me as probably the people that tweet you or are on the line on the airwaves. And but I don't apologize for it because it's not something I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to make it more difficult on one kid or discipline them. In fact, just the opposite. It's been very strenuous to try to do that with a lineup that everybody questioned at the beginning who was going to play the point or center. And so it is what it is, and we're trying to make do what we can do. But I thought your point about, the preseason, that's normally where you get it. It's almost like everything's been moved back a month or two, at least for us, and maybe some other teams, but definitely for us. And would it have been better if I could have stuck with a certain lineup? Some of it I didn't feel I could. Some of it I couldn't because those bodies weren't even there. So there's a lot of good reasons and excuses, but none of those really matter right now. We've got pretty much a full team back. We've had them back for, Gabe's been back a week. We've had Josh back a couple weeks. If there's ever a time when we can start putting it together, it is now, and later than I would like, later than most people would like, but not of any fault of the players, I promise you that. And it's always fault of the coach. So if it is fault of the coach, this is one time I'll defer to saying, you know what, we're trying to do the best we can do under the circumstances.
Next question is from Lindsey Huddleston.
Thank you, Tom. Last week, you were really visibly moved by not winning that Iowa game. You talked about planning to win. How do you manage the emotions of getting ready for this team again 10 days later when it was such an
Yeah, as you know, emotions are a big part of the game, and but you can look at it two ways. You know, you can go back and look at tape and say, hey, you know what? If we did a few of these things better, if we didn't maybe foul here or they weren't called there, you know. But the bottom line is they'll be a different team. We'll be a little bit different team, you know, and you just hope that the one area that will be is I think our guys know we can play with them, and that's important when your confidence has been shaken a little bit. So, you know, we know they're a very good team. They're very well coached. They're probably the best offensive team in the league. And we understand that. But we've been pretty good defensively. It's whether we can get our offense going to, you know, they zoned us a little bit more. And I would welcome that now. I think we'd be more prepared for it. And we'll see what happens. We rebounded very well there. I think we had 20 offensive rebounds. We did some damn good things. We just couldn't get it quite done. And part of the reason is they're really good too, and they're really well coached. And Garza's a load. You know, he's a load for everybody. As I said, if you do a hell of a job on him, he gets 22. If you don't, he gets 32. And somewhere in the middle is where he's been most of the time. So I think a lot of people just stress Garza. Right now, Wieskamp has been shooting the ball maybe better than anybody in this league. He's been on a tear the last 3-4 games. So you can't, you know, a couple of stats that were interesting, Lindsay. We gave up 6 3-point plays, not 3-point shots. 3-point plays where we foul the guy and he gets the bucket. And that can't happen. That's one thing we have to do a better job of.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Up next is Audrey Goldberg.
Hey Tom, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Garza obviously is somebody that did put you guys in foul trouble though when you were there. And so on a random whim here, did you guys look at all at the film from last year and how Xavier guarded him and try to apply that to, you know, your bigs this year, or just take some things away from maybe watching how Xavier handled him?
Yeah, I'm trying to get those 3 officials from last year back this year. I'm just kidding. I don't want to get officials mad at me. But, yeah, you know, but I mean, that's why Xavier's starting in the NBA too, some games. So we did look at that, and believe it or not, Xavier guarded him some, but we used Xavier a lot to double last year because he was so smart and he had such a feel for everything. So he did guard him some, but he didn't guard him the whole game like you think. And so we've done a little bit of both, and we've looked at a couple different ways we're going to guard him. But I still say right now I'm as worried about a couple of those other guys. You know, Wieskamp definitely, their point guard. He's had 30 points in games. You know, we did a decent job on him. He had 9, and I think he had 4 from the free throw line in the last 20 seconds. So we actually held him to 4 or 5 points. And if we could hold him and Wieskamp to 4 or 5 points like we did the first game, I think our chances of winning are better, no matter what Garza does, except if we get in so much foul trouble that, you know, I love my guys. I just don't like them sitting next to me on the bench. You're welcome.
Up next is a question from Stephen Brooks.
So you at the time you mentioned, you know, every game there's an opportunity with the rest of this schedule here. I'm just curious with the makeup of this game, how do you think these guys will respond to that? Because I'm thinking back to last year when you guys had to go win that last stretch to win the Big Ten, of course. Different makeup of this team, but with that similar sort of, you know, you mentioned the other day, pressure being on you guys. Just curious how you think that dynamic will affect this specific group.
You know, we talked about it Wednesday morning. We had a good team meeting right after the Penn State game. We had an early morning meeting just to talk about all the things. You know, I never try to talk about the end result. I try to talk about the process. And yet, you know, there is pressure on these guys. I mean, there's so many things going on right now that I just decided to sit down and talk to them and kind of tell them what I thought, what we have to do, where we have to get. Don't put pressure on every game, but we do got to win games. And, you know, I feel they handled it pretty well. But, you know, when game time comes, it's always a different way of handling things. But I think in general, they're excited right now to get some home games, you know, because we went a long time without any. Now we got some home games. I think they're excited to play a real good team that we know has been a top. Hell, I think they were 3 or 4 at one point. And I think we have a golden opportunity. It's just the problem is we're playing a very, very good team that has. We've defended them pretty well on the perimeter, but we don't match up as well inside. And so we're going to throw everybody but the kitchen sink at them. Do it a little differently. Markey got in foul trouble real early. Joey got in foul trouble real early. I think that that hurt us too. We didn't turn the ball over that much. It was the fouls that hurt us. So I think they'll respond. I really do.
Yeah, if I could follow up real quickly there, is that a sort of a balance of injecting that confidence of look what we did last time, guys, versus knowing everything isn't going to be one-to-one translatable? Is that kind of
Yeah, there is a lot of balance. I'm balancing a lot of things right now. How hard to push, how hard to hug, how hard to hold, how hard to, be real with them, how hard to, kind of try to make it rosy in one way, try to make it difficult in another. I've never went through something like this, and yet it's been a good learning experience. And as I keep telling them, if they survive it, it's going to make them stronger, better, and not only this season, maybe next season, maybe the rest of their lives. I mean, we're talking about something that nobody's dealt with all the things. And here at Michigan State, there hasn't been many times we were 10-7, okay? But there hasn't been many times when Duke is 7-9 or Kentucky's 5-14 or I mean, it's kind of a strange time. And all I can do is make sure that we're ready to play and that, they know they have to play at a very high level. I think the hardest thing this year has been to try to understand when you lose a game like Wisconsin or Purdue, our margin for error is a lot slimmer than it's been other years. Part of it is, leadership down the stretch and maybe, great quarterback play. Part of it is, a lot of new bodies in there that have to withstand the pressure of where you play and yet are trying to kind of grow their own self as they go. So it's been interesting, but it's not all been that bad. I have learned a lot, and I think my team will learn a lot. And if we can find a way to win a couple games here, it changes everything, just like making shots. If you make more shots, your defense gets better. It's just the way it is. You're feeling better about yourself. So that's what we're working on. And I've said this to you before, and I'll say it again. The practices in that, players have been very good. I don't feel like they're off in left field, and we're just going to keep building on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we got time for a couple more. We'll start with Brennan Quinn.
Hey, Tom. Marcus, and there have been times where you've mentioned that his minutes are sometimes limited by his endurance or ability to go for extended time, things like that. I wonder where you think he is on that. If you take out foul trouble, anything else that might happen.
Yeah.
How
Well,
would you feel about playing him, 22, 24?
I think 20 minutes a game, Brendan, is what he could play right now. I still think because of his slightness, he has to exert so much more energy against a guy like this. But definitely he's up from the 10, 12 minutes he was early in the year from all the, I say weight he lost over the summer because he was actually lighter when he came back than he was last year, which doesn't make any sense. But Marcus has taken some steps to improve. It's still, I wouldn't lie to you, it's frustrating because I think if he took care of the things he needs to take care of, I think he put himself even in a better position. But at the same time, all we can do is go with what we got now. And he is playing more minutes in practice. He is playing a little more minutes in games. Foul trouble does create a problem once in a while, and he usually gets that when he gets tired. But I think if we could get 18, 20 minutes out of him, that would be great, and I think that would help us a lot too. Was that a picture of you golfing, by the way, or was that?
I mean, I know my swing does look a lot like Ben Hogan's, but no, that's Ben Hogan.
Yeah, it looked like, Ben somebody, I
In
don't
my mind,
know.
I stay on the course.
Yeah. That's a good thing to stay. Just don't show us pictures of it. It's my stomach can't take it. But go on. So anyway, I'm hoping, all seriousness, that we can get him more minutes, and because I think his length does bother. You know, we've had some success with his length. He blocked a couple shots in the last game down there, but he does have to exert a lot. You know, at his 220 pounds compared to 260 or 70, and I'll tell you what, Garza just keeps coming at you. You know, he posts, they throw it out, he reposts. I mean, if you rest a minute, he's going to be underneath the basket.
And Mark, you keeping up with him in transition and things like just the.
You know, yeah, he's got to do that because the guy runs funny. I mean, you watch him and you say, how's he getting up and down? You know, they used to say about Magic that he wasn't that fast, but one step he was at full speed. He had the ability to do that. And Garza, you watch him and you say, look at this guy run, but he's always at full speed for him. And I just have a lot of respect for him because of that. You know, he just keeps on trucking, you know, and when Wieskamp starts playing like he's been playing, and, you know, I look at the last game, the last three guys that are playing 4 minutes a game hurt us. You know, Toussaint had 10 points against us. And Ulis had, 4 points and drew 2 fouls and got a couple of rebounds. And another kid did the same thing, you know. So it was the guys playing 4 minutes that, believe it or not, I don't think we appreciated hurt us. And so Franny plays 10, 11. You know, you talk about playing guys. I mean, I asked him after the game, is his wife going to suit up? You know, he's got everybody in there. And those bottom guys hurt us, and they hurt us a lot. So I give them a lot of credit on that. They all kind of know their role, you know, and play to their role. They know that the ball's going inside first, and they don't deviate from that. And I think that's really helped him a lot, to be honest. The Murray kid, too, you know, Nunge hurt us the last game, but he is a really good player. But the Murray kid's a kid that, you know, you don't know that much about. He's going to be a hell of a player before he's done. He's a great offensive rebounder. He's got great length. They got a hell of a team. If they put everything together, they're definitely a Final Four team.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
It looks like our last question today comes from Kyle Austin.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, last couple of games that have kind of been close at the end, you've gone with Rockets there at the point in that stretch. What have you liked about him for that?
Well, you know, Rocket's still a guy. I mean, the day's going to come. Joey's going to be making shots. And Rocket, you know, what we told him the last game is he's got to get back to his defensive tenacity. He has a dog in him, and I mean, it's a positive dog that he can get after people, and that kind of gets his offense going. So one of the things I like about him is down the stretch, when I have Aaron, Josh, and him in there, I think defensively it makes us really good. But offensively, you know, he had the big tip in, you know, he finds a way to make winning plays, and yet, you know, sometimes struggles in other ways. He's gotten way better. I think he's taking better shots. I actually wish he'd take a few more mid-range shots because he can get in the paint anytime he wants. But he's getting in there and he's finding people, and that's been better. And defensively, you know, he's our best asset at that position late in games too. So it's a combination, but as you know, that's been one of the problems. We have one guy that's better offensively, one guy that's better defensively, and one guy that might be a better passer, and we kind of got to get them all together somehow.
All right, Coach, that's all the questions we have for you today.
Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow.